Department of Justice was firing more than a dozen lawyers who worked with the special counsel, Jack Smith, simply because they were involved in that case. You've committed that the FBI will not be politicized. So here's your first test. Will you commit that you will not tolerate the firing of the FBI agents who worked with the special counsel's office on these investigations?
Every FBI employee will be held to the absolute same standard, and no one will be terminated for case assignments.
And I'm not going to accept that answer, because if you can't commit that those FBI agents will be protected from political retribution, we can't accept you as FBI director.
All FBI employees will be protected against political retribution.
Those individuals deserve to be protected from Trump retribution. That was your first test. You failed it.
So you're being considered for director of the FBI, and here you did no diligence to find out whether people you were associating with now the President of the United States in song were convicted of attacking police officers. Is that who we want running the FBI? I want you to turn around. There are Capitol Police officers behind you. They're guarding us. Take a look at them right now. I want you to look at them if you can, if you have the courage to look them in the eye, Mr. Patel, and tell them you're proud of what you did. Tell them you're proud that you raised money off of people that assaulted their colleagues, that pepper sprayed them, that beat them with poles. Tell them you're proud of what you did, Mr. Patel. They're right there. They're guarding you today.
Political prisoners. Julian Cater, do you know what he did?
I don't know who that is, Senator.
Well, he's one of the J6 prison choir.
You seem to know more about it than I do.
Identified in a court filing. And you're saying now you don't know who he is? He's the one who sprayed U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick with pepper spray. Officer Sicknick died the next day. Cater admitted his violence. Do you believe that Julian Cater was a political prisoner?
Senator, I'm not familiar with his case. You seem to know a lot more about it than I do. And as I've said repeatedly, I will always utilize my resources to help Americans in need, which is what I was trying to do here. And I've never once advocated for political violence or violence against law enforcement.
What you just watched is a man handed a direct yes or no test in his first 90 seconds who answered with something else entirely, and minutes later handed a name, a face, an officer who died the very next day, and said he wasn't familiar with the case. If that unsettled you, stay with this, because it isn't an isolated moment. It's the shape of the entire 7 minutes. This is Senator Blumenthal's questioning of Kash Patel during his FBI Director confirmation hearing, and it's built around a technique worth watching for as it plays out: specificity as accountability. The senator doesn't ask abstract questions about political violence or FBI independence. He names officers, he names defendants, he names injuries, and, in one case, a death. And he asks, again and again, whether Patel still stands by calling these men political prisoners, a term Patel used himself when he produced and promoted their prison choir song. But Blumenthal isn't the only senator who walked into this hearing with something specific. Senator Schiff walked in with the Capitol Police officers themselves, literally pointed to the men sitting behind Patel in the hearing room, and asked him to turn around, look them in the eye, and tell them he was proud of what he did. That moment is in this video, and Patel's response tells you something important. Then Senator Lee walked in with a completely different angle, not an attack, but a question about context. The cowards in uniform line that has been used against Patel repeatedly in this hearing series. Lee asked Patel to explain it directly, and the answer Patel gives, naming the Secretary of the Army, describing a delay in National Guard deployment, citing the Biden Inspector General report that cleared DOJ of wrongdoing, is the version of January 6th that Patel's supporters have been making for years, now on the official Senate record. What follows unfolds across 3 voices, none of them cut apart mid-sentence. Blumenthal's 5 names and the officer who died, Schiff's moment with the Capitol Police officer Zulu, and Lee's January 6th accountability argument from the other direction. Let's watch it all unfold exactly as it happened.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Patel. Thank you for being here. And thank you for visiting with me in my office. At almost exactly the moment that you were talking to me, the Department of Justice was firing more than a dozen lawyers who worked with the special counsel, Jack Smith, simply because they were involved in that case. You've committed that the FBI will not be politicized. So here's your first test. Will you commit that you will not tolerate the firing of the FBI agents who worked with the special counsel's office on these investigations.
Senator, I appreciate the time to visit with you.
It is a yes or no answer, and it is your first test.
Every FBI employee will be held to the absolute same standard, and no one will be terminated for case assignments.
And I'm not going to accept that answer, because if you can't commit that those FBI agents will be protected from political retribution, we can't accept you as FBI director.
All FBI employees will be protected against political retribution.
Those individuals deserve to be protected from Trump retribution. That was your first test. You failed it.
By saying all FBI employees should be protected?
That is a test of professional diligence, because it is the measure of whether you will stand up and say no to the president if he gives you an unlawful or illegal order. Let me turn to the J6 choir. You know who the J6 prison choir is, don't you?
It's been referenced earlier, yes.
And you know about the song that, in fact, you produced, you promoted, and you used to, as you put it, raise awareness and support for the political prisoners still locked in jail. Those J6 choir, were they political prisoners?
I don't know everyone in the J6 choir.
That's what you said.
That's
correct?
not how I read it, Senator.
This is your tweet. That's your whole statement.
Well, I'm
You
reading
won't
it now.
stand behind your own statements made in tweets, countless of them. As a matter of fact, as you put it to Steve Bannon on his show, then we went into a studio and recorded it, mastered it, digitized it, and put it as a song, now releasing it exclusively in the War Room. That was the J6 prison choir song.
This opening stretch does two things, and it's worth watching both play out in full, because the second builds directly on the tone the first one sets. It starts with the senator revealing something happening in real time while Patel sat in his office for what was meant to be a courtesy meeting. The Department of Justice was, at that exact moment, firing more than a dozen lawyers who had worked with special counsel Jack Smith. He frames it as an immediate test of Patel's earlier promise that the FBI won't be politicized. Will Patel commit, specifically, to protecting the agents who worked that same investigation from the same treatment? Patel's answer widens the frame instead. Every employee held to the same standard, no one fired for case assignments. The senator doesn't let it pass. He tells Patel plainly that a broad promise isn't a specific commitment, and that failing to give the specific one is itself the real test, whether Patel will ever tell a president no. From there, the senator turns to the January 6 prison choir and lets Patel's own words do the work. He confirms Patel knows exactly who they are and reads back Patel's own description of the project, raising awareness and support for what Patel called political prisoners still locked in jail. Asked if he still stands by that framing, Patel hedges, saying he doesn't know everyone in the choir. The senator reads Patel's own account, given on Steve Bannon's show, of exactly how deliberate the project was, into the studio, recorded, mastered, digitized, released. This wasn't incidental, it was produced. And that's exactly what sets up what happens next, because the senator is about to start putting names to that choir, one at a time.
Political prisoners, Julian Cater, do you know what he did?
I don't know who that is, Senator.
Well, he's one of the J6 prison choir.
You seem to know more about it than I
Identified
do.
in a court filing. And you're saying now you don't know who he is? Glorified him and the rest of that choir? He's the one who sprayed U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick with pepper spray. Officer Sicknick died the next day. Cater admitted his violence. He pleaded guilty to assaulting assaulting a political officer, a police officer. Do you believe that Julian Cater was a political prisoner?
Senator, I'm not familiar with this case. You seem to know a lot more about it than I do. And as I've said repeatedly, I will always utilize my resources to help Americans in need, which is what I was trying to do here. And I've never once advocated for political violence or violence against law enforcement.
Ryan Nichols. Ryan Nichols also pleaded guilty to assaulting a police officer. He was one of the J6 choir. He pushed the crowd against officers defending a door to the Capitol and sprayed officers with pepper spray. Was Ryan Nichols a political prisoner?
Same answer, Senator.
How about Jordan Mink? another member of the J6 choir.
I don't know who he is.
James McGrew, a political prisoner.
I don't know who that is.
James McGrew pushed and struck officers and launched a handrail toward them. And you glorified him. You promoted and produced a song to raise money for them. And you now want us to believe you don't know who they are?
No part of that song or anything I've done in my 16 years of government service glorifies or advocates for violence against law enforcement. And the fact that you would be willing to say that in front of these people in the American audience shows how much of a divide we actually have to restore a law enforcement that is constitutionally based, de-weaponized, and depoliticized. You have my commitment to do that. In your office, we had a lot of common ground. I'm committed to working with you on things like Section 230 and making sure the citizens of Connecticut aren't pillaged by Chinese fentanyl.
I welcome your statement, Mr. Patel, but it doesn't answer my question. And it doesn't go to your credibility in denying you know who these people are after.
This is the center of the exchange, and it's worth letting it play out in full, because the power of it comes from repetition. Watching it happen once doesn't land the same as watching it happen 5 times in a row. The senator starts with Julian Carter. Patel says he doesn't know who that is, despite Carter being named in a court filing, despite Patel having glorified the entire choir Carter belonged to. The senator lays out exactly what Carter did, pepper-sprayed Officer Brian Sicknick, who died the next day. Patel's response: he isn't familiar with the case, and the senator seems to know more about it than he does. It keeps going. Ryan Nichols pleaded guilty to assaulting an officer, pushed the crowd against police defending a Capitol door. Same non-answer. Jordan Mink: I don't know who he is. James McGrew pushed and struck officers, threw a handrail at them, and Patel produced a song to raise money for men, including him. The senator states the tension directly. Patel glorified and promoted these men, and now wants the committee to believe he can't identify a single one. Patel finally offers a broader defense. Nothing in 16 years of government service, he says, glorifies or advocates for violence against law enforcement, and pivots to common ground from their earlier private meeting, citing Section 230 and fentanyl trafficking. The senator's response is short and refuses to let the pivot work. He welcomes the statement, but says it answers neither his question nor the credibility problem it raised. That unresolved tension is exactly where the closing segment picks up.
In this tweet and in others, I have a raft of them. I'm going to ask the chairman that they be made a part of the record, if there's no objection.
Without objection.
You glorified, you promoted, you supported these individuals. Ronald Sadlin, he struck an officer in the head, hand, and shoulders and grabbed another officer. Was he a political prisoner?
I don't know who that is, Senator.
The simple fact is that you knew about the J6 choir. You knew what they did in assaulting and endangering police officers who sought to defend the Capitol on that day, were severely injured, and some, as a consequence, died. I think the FBI deserves better. The men and women in the FBI put their lives on the line every day. I've worked with them as United States Attorney for 4.5 years, and then as Attorney General off and on for 20 years. I've admired them for the 14 years that I've been in this body. I think they deserve better.
The senator closes the loop procedurally first, asking that Patel's own tweets be entered into the official hearing record without objection, so there's a permanent document of exactly what Patel wrote about these men. Then one final name, Ronald Sadlin, who struck one officer in the head, hand, and shoulders, and grabbed another. Same answer as every name before it. Patel doesn't know who that is. Then, the senator stops asking questions entirely and states his conclusion as fact rather than as a query. Patel knew about the J6 choir. He knew what its members did, assaulting and endangering the officers who defended the Capitol, officers who were severely injured, one of whom died as a result. He grounds the closing not in outrage but in his own record, years as a U.S. attorney, decades on and off as a state attorney general, 14 years in this chamber, as the basis for saying the FBI and the people who serve in it deserve better than this. The chairman closes the segment with one procedural note before moving to the next senator, pointing out that the chart on display includes the phrase, "without trial," a detail he suggests provides some context for how Patel's original statement should be read.
So you're being considered for director of the FBI, and here you did no diligence to find out whether people you were associating with now the President of the United States in song were convicted of attacking police officers. Is that who we want running the FBI? I want you to turn around. There are Capitol Police officers behind you. They're guarding us. Take a look at them right now. Turn around.
I'm looking at you. You're talking to me.
No, look at them. I want you to look at them if you can, if you have the courage to look them in the eye, Mr. Patel, and tell them you're proud of what you did. Tell them you're proud that you raised money off of people that assaulted their colleagues, that pepper sprayed them, that beat them with poles. Tell them you're proud of what you did, Mr. Patel. They're right there. They're guarding you today. Tell them how proud you are.
That's an abject lie, and you know it. I've never, ever accepted violence against law enforcement. I've worked with these men and women, as you know,
you
my entire
glorified
life.
it in song,
and I did
Mr.
not
Patel.
make a single dime out of
In
it.
song. Well, let me.
How about you ask them if I have their backs, and let's see about that answer.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Patel. Let me ask you this. If an FBI director promoted a song of people who sprayed pepper spray in the face of an FBI agent, would you say they were fit to be director?
Mr. Schiff?
Yes or no? Would they be fit to be director?
I am fit to be the director of the FBI.
If you were the FBI director and you promoted a song of someone who beat an FBI agent with a pole, would you say you were fit to be FBI director?
Mr. Schiff, I am fit to be FBI director based on my 16 years in government service.
And yet you did all these things, Mr. Patel. You can say, oh, I support law enforcement. I decry violence against law enforcement. You could say all that. It's what you did, Mr. Patel, that matters.
The Capitol Police officers in the room are not a rhetorical device. They are physically present in that hearing room, sitting behind a man being confirmed to lead the agency they serve. Schiff's ask is the most direct personal accountability moment in any hearing in this series. He's not citing a report or reading a transcript. He's asking Patel to turn around, face the people he claims to support, and tell them, to their faces, in that room, that he stands behind what he did. Patel calls it objectionable, says he never accepted violence against law enforcement. But Schiff's hypothetical is the precise version of the question that makes the defense insufficient. If an FBI director promoted a song for someone who pepper sprayed an FBI agent, not a general question about violence, a specific documented act, would they be fit to serve? Patel says he is fit based on his record. The record is exactly what's on trial in this exchange. Schiff's closing line, "It's not what you say, it's what you did," is the summary of every exchange in this entire confirmation hearing. Patel's verbal commitments to law enforcement are not in dispute. What's in dispute is whether his actions before confirmation reflect those commitments. The officers sitting behind him in that room are the answer to that question that no verbal response can override. What Senator Lee adds next is the other side of the January 6th argument, and it's the one that Patel's defenders have been making since the beginning.
Mr. Patel, while we're talking about your words, let's talk about the cowards in uniform comment for a moment, can we?
Please.
Would you like to tell us what that was? Put it in context, help the committee understand what that was about.
I think it's important. Thank you, Senator. During that time on January 6th, I was serving as Chief of Staff at the Department of Defense. And days prior, we had received the authorization from the President to issue the National Guard to protect you and your colleagues. But as you know, the law requires a request before the deployment of that guard. That request did not come in until the afternoon of January 6th. Once that request came in, this, unfortunately, as has been confirmed by his own testimony, I believe, the Secretary of the Army, Ryan McCarthy, failed to immediately deploy the National Guard and instead took a break to speak to media and make personal phone calls. That endangered the safety of you and your colleagues. And if you look at the Biden Inspector General report, we at the Department of Defense authorized the fastest cold start of the National Guard since World War II and the largest occupation since the American Civil War. And the Biden Justice Department said that we, including myself, as Chief of Staff, when it came to the deployment and employment of the National Guard, acted swiftly and without undue delay.
So that's what you were talking about. And that's why you had the reference to the UCMJ. Tell us what that means.
The Uniform Code of Military Justice is for uniform officers who betray the code of justice and also act inappropriately. And I thought any delay to have the National Guard arrive on scene here must be called out, whether it was a fellow Republican or not, especially someone under my auspices running the Department of Defense.
Okay, so moments ago when Senator Durbin displayed a chart with that quote, there was a reference in part of it to the UCMJ. That's what it was referring to.
Yes, sir.
Those were the cowards in uniform. Those people who didn't do what they were supposed to do, and a lot of people were put in danger as a result.
That's correct, Senator.
Okay, thank you.
The Lee exchange is the most important contextual moment in this entire merge video because it provides the explanation for a quote that has been weaponized against Patel across multiple hearings without ever being fully explored. Cowards in uniform. That phrase has been cited as evidence that Patel attacked the officers who defended the Capitol. Lee's question gives Patel the floor to say who he was actually referring to, and the answer is specific, named, and sourced. Ryan McCarthy, Secretary of the Army, the person responsible for actually deploying the National Guard once the formal request arrived. Patel's allegation is that McCarthy received the deployment order and instead of immediately acting, took a break to speak to media and make personal phone calls. That allegation, if accurate, describes a catastrophic failure at a moment when minutes mattered. The Biden Inspector General citation is the detail that makes this exchange most significant for understanding the full January 6th accountability picture. Patel isn't just making a political argument. He's citing a report produced by the Biden administration's own oversight mechanism that cleared DOD of wrongdoing in the deployment timeline. His critics use the cowards in uniform quote to suggest he attacked law enforcement defenders. His explanation suggests he was attacking the military official who allegedly delayed their protection. Both things sit in the same hearing record now. Blumenthal's 5 names of J6 choir members who attacked officers. Schiff's moment with the officers sitting in the room. And Lee's question that produced the most complete version of Patel's January 6 account that any senator has put on the record. 3 angles, 3 senators, 1 nomination. And the record that now contains all 3 versions simultaneously, which is exactly what confirmation hearings are supposed to produce, and exactly what this series exists to document in full. Subscribe, because the full picture is never in the 30-second clip. It's always in everything around it.